Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Doktor. Good afternoon. My name is Muhammad Aslam bin Nasir.
My name is Shakira Abusama.
Our group will choose Teletech, Nike, and Wrigley, which is I will talk about Teletech, and Shakira will talk about Wrigley, and both of us will talk about Nike. My part is one to explain about the Teletech Corporation 2005. The company background of Teletech is the company listed on the Nasdaq Stock Exchange headquarters in Dallas, Texas. CEO is Maxwell Harper and CFO is Margaret. The business segment which is telecommunication, reached 75% market value and product system, growing 25% market value. Company update the latest one. Victor Yosarian acquired 10% stakes in Teletech, 2.6 on the board of Teletech. This background, company performance underperformed in the stock market. Stock did not keep pace with the telephone equipment on computers. Firm lackluster earnings over 12 months due to the increased competition in telecommunication. Third, disappointing performance in the product and system segment. Issue 1. Use a single hurdle rate to evaluate all segments of the company versus the use of multiple hurdle rates to get different risks. Second, misusing the resources and not earning adequate return. Third, product system segment should be discontinued. Single hurdle rate versus the multiple hurdle rates. From the table, you can see that single hurdle rate brings the earning profit for the telecommunication negative to 9 billion compared to the product system which is 7.42 billion. WACC, the calculation of the WACC weighted average cost of capital for the Teletech 9130226 for the multiple hurdle rate which is for the risk adjusted return. You can see from the table, telecommunication brings the economic profit 3.89 billion compared to the product and system 2.62 billion. So the conclusion is Victor Yosarian was correct to imply that the product and system segment was underperformed. 1. Second, that there exist inefficient utilization of the resources. Third, profit could have been maximized if the company focused on the telecommunication segment. This is due to the high cost for the product and system segment to get external financing and relies more on internal source. Fourth, the product and system segment be discontinued, and Victor Yosarian believe the same, which is why he demand 2 board seats that will give him enough authority to make change in the company direction. Lastly, is the company should respond to Victor Yosarian by first acknowledge that he is right, the products and system are underperformed. Second, they must ensure that he gets the 2 board seats and allow him to lead the remedying the company direction and performance. That's all. I pass to Shakira to continue.
Assalamualaikum, Doctor. So today I will be presenting for the case study of the Wrigley Junior Company. So as a background, Wrigley's is the largest manufacturer and distributor of chewing gum. It is well known for brands such as Juicy Fruit, Extra, Spearmint, and Bubble Tea. it is branded as Consumer Foods and Candy, and which is a highly competitive scene dominated by large players such as Hershey's, Kraft Foods, and Cadbury. So, analyzing the company using Porter's 5 forces, the first threat, which is threat from new entrants, is relatively low since it is hard to compete with established brands as the larger brands already have prominent targeted consumers. Not only that, they will also have problems in price matching since they do not possess large economies of scale for production. So, for threat of bargaining power of customers, it is considered high since there are numerous similar products which are sensitive to changes in market price. And for threat of bargaining power of supplier, it is low since the availability of confectioneries industry supplier is high, and also the commodities that are involved in chewing gum production are accessible in the market. Next is the threat of substitution. This is low since Wrigley's had already established being the #1 manufacturer of chewing gums. And they also possess strong brand image and successful advertising campaign.
The last threat is the threat of competitive rivalry, which was deemed to be high, since it is inevitable that there are other companies and candy brands which are popular choices among consumers as well. So the task given was to assist Susan Chandler, which was an associate to Blanca Dobrin, a managing partner who is looking to invest in Wrigley. So some of the information provided are as follow. Firstly, we calculated the pre-capitalization of cost of equity, which we found out to be 10.11%. This means that the equity holders receive a return of 10.11% for bearing the risk when investing their capital in the company. This value is also the value of the weighted average cost of capital, which is WACC, since Wrigley's company is fully owned by equity holders. So before capitalization, the stock price was $56.36 each. And then we did an analysis for earnings per share versus the earnings before income and tax. So the tax rate given was 40%. There was no interest rate on debt or pre-recap debt since Wrigley's company was known to have zero debt in its company. And the earnings per share were calculated based on 3 cases, which were most likely, worst case, and best case. So the average earnings per share were all above $1, which was $1.23 for worst case, $1.50 for most likely, and $1.65 for best case. So for the Wrigley family's ownership, this is before recapitalization. They had an ownership of 46.62% of the overall company. So after recapitalization, which the new market value for Wrigley company was $14.3 billion compared to before recapitalization, which was $13.1 billion. So it increased by $1.2 billion. For earnings per share versus earnings before income and tax analysis, the obvious difference was seen in the earnings per share, whereby after recapitalization itself, the earnings per share actually decreased for all cases to 22 cents for worst case, 49 cents for most likely, and 64 cents for best case. For after recapitalization and share repurchase, the earnings per share were 28 cents for worst case, 62 cents for most likely, and 81 cents for best case, which all are higher in price compared to just recapitalization itself. So for the family ownership of the company, it also increased to 59.24% after shares repurchased. In conclusion, even though the earnings per share or dividend payout decreased, the overall market value of stock and also the percentage of ownership by Wrigley's family increased after recapitalization. Therefore, we would recommend Dobbering to pursue an investment in Wrigley's with the condition of her persuading them to undergo recapitalization for both of their benefits first.
Okay, Prof, for the Nike Corporation, a case study about the cost of capital. So background case is a Kim Ford of the North Point Group large cap fund waiting whether to buy Nike stock. Nike share price had declined significantly from the beginning of the year. To revitalize the company, Nike has revealed that it will increase exposure in the mid-priced footwear and apparel lines. It also commit to cut down expenses. Mixed signals were received by analysts to Nike change Kimi Ford has done to cash flow estimate and asked her assistant Joanna Cohen to estimate cost of capital. Single cost of multiple costs. We believe the use of the single cost is more suitable than multiple costs of capital. This is since the cash flow value is based on the WACC estimated. Also, since Nike business segment are similar to each other, therefore they will all bear similar risk. Thus, a single cost is sufficient for this analysis. Cost of debt. This is calculation, Cohen calculation and our calculation. Cohen used the book value of the equity, which is equal 3,494.50. Our calculation total sum of the current LT plus note payable plus LT debt discount, which is equal 5.4 plus 855.3 and plus 416.72 equal 1277.2. So Cohen mistakenly used the historical data in estimating the cost of debt. She divided the interest expenses by the average balance of debt to get 4.3% of before tax cost of debt. It may not reflect Nike current or further cost of debt. For the cost of equity, Cohen used the book value of the equity, which is equal 3,494.5. Our calculation used the stock price time number of shares outstanding, $42.09 times 271.5 equal 11,427.44.
So for the calculation of weight of equity and weight of debt, we use the E value or equity value that we obtained in the previous slide, which is 11,427.44 divided by debt plus equity total. So we got the weight of equity as 89.95%. For debt, we did the same thing, but we divided the total debt by the total debt plus equity. Therefore, we obtained a weight of 10.05%. For cost of debt, we took the value from the yield to maturity of 20-year for Knight bond, which is 7.51%. For cost of equity, we calculated based on the risk-free rate of 20-year yield on US Treasuries, the market risk premium of geometric mean, which is 5.9%, and also the most recent beta that is available, which is 0.69, and we obtain a cost of equity of 9.81%. So for the weight average cost of capital, since it is supposed to be set by the investors and not managers, we can only estimate the value. The true value could not be observed. Cohen should not have used the book values as the basis for debt and equity weights, since the market values should be used in calculating weights. The reasoning of using market weights to estimate WACC is that it is how much it will cost the firm to raise capital today. That cost is based on the market value of capital, not by the book value of capital. So our calculation of the WACC is based on all the values we obtained in the previous slide, and we got a value of 9.29%. As a conclusion, with the calculated WACC of 9.29%, the present value of share price is $58.13 per share, which is more than the current market price of $42.09. This shows that it is true that it is an undervalued stock, even though the current growth rate is only 6% to 7%, which is much lower than that estimated by the manager, which was 8 to 10%. Therefore, we recommend Kimi Ford to buy Nike stock.